Okay, well, hi everybody. I'm Adriana with the Department of Modern Languages, Linguistics, and Intercultural Communications. Let me put this somewhere. Let's see if this works. Oops. Okay. So, well, to be fully honest with you, my problem first and foremost is trying to understand why, like a good academic reason to have a hybrid class. Like I understand the administrative reasons of why we're pushing it, but I am absolutely happy with my face-to-face class, and it makes it easy for me to travel in the summer. So it's like all these reasons that I've been finding are not necessarily I really need the technology to be able to better my class. So I just have to be honest, I struggle with this. But I'm riding the wave and I'm going with it. So in this process, I'm trying to discover what is it. So I was telling Karen and Barry when we met that I think my main problem right now is not to separate hybrid, face-to-face, but make it one unit that is cohesive. My classes are more experiential, kind of like the other way from what you were describing. They're very experiential. We talk, we debrief, the students have their experience, they have their aha moments as to how they experience the world, and that's what I want for them to do. So I've been trying to figure out how their experience outside of the classroom can be as experiential and all the things that I want to be building a community, make them do the work by themselves, although by themselves and maybe in a community as well, because to me the learning is in the debrief when everybody is listening to each other. So the learning happens in a group, not by themselves. So what I did, I have here, well, step one is just remember what we were talking about, just to ground them why we're doing this. The second one is a video clip. And what it is, it's just like maybe no more than a minute scene. It's in silence. And maybe, I guess you don't have to see it. Let me see if it, oh, there it is. So as you see, the students, what I ask them is to observe this. Which we would be acting in class. I do this in class with a student, face to face. And after that, if I can go back, they have to simply watch the clip and then write a description of what they saw. So they go on the discussion board and they really, I beg them to write first what they saw before they read the other, the classmates' answers. And then what I'm going to do, this is not a discussion after everybody writes, so I'm going to be giving them a specific date so I have time to answer back, to read the answers, and then I post, and then I give them, I tell them what this scenario was about, what type of values and behaviors and belief systems this culture had, which is not from any particular culture, it's just an exercise. And then I react to their comments. And usually what happens is that This is a little charged depending on our point of view because the man is sitting down, the woman is on the floor. I don't know if you noticed, but she's barefoot and blah, blah, blah. So what I'm trying to get at is the difference between describing something, which is what I'm asking them to do, and coming up with an interpretation. So most of the time they're saying, she was like a dog, and there's, you know, subservient power, men are blah, blah, blah. So they give me all this. And then I just take those comments who were just merely descriptions. Man goes first, man sitting on chair, woman is the barefooted and blah, blah. And I said, you know, these are descriptions. On the other hand, these are interpretations. And then I present a model and say, how can we slow down our meaning-making process to look at descriptions? So that's what this is. So that's the discussion board, and then my gig would be right there on that discussion board, my explanation, and then I would post in sequence the description of the model, the describe, interpret, whatever it is. So this is my piece, and I asked a student of mine to look at it, and she thought that it was very clear, very short, like the explanations, good, like just to the point. She said the only distracting thing is that I know the characters, so that was a little bit distracting. I don't think my undergraduate students are going to know Joneshin. Maybe they will. I don't know, but so that was her only thing that, you know, that was a little distracting for her to say, oh, Joneshin there, and, you know. And my colleague just said, good, I've seen you do this face-to-face. It looks great. So my next challenges is kind of to continue be able to come up with this type of material, which is what I want in the class, and then see how maybe to bring in conversations, because the fact is that this is a lot of work, like at least at the beginning, in the first years, this is not giving us less work. This is giving us more work. Because if I really want to be part of the discussion, if I really, it's like, why would I do that? I just go to class and I have the discussion that I don't have to sit 4 hours. I mean, I'm being very honest. I'm just, yeah. John.
So I want to go to your comment that you made at the beginning, where you have questions about the pedagogical value of going to hybrid. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested, so you have said that you've done this exercise in class face-to-face where it's been acted out. Mm-hmm. And now it's a video clip. Mm-hmm. I assume that in face-to-face, when you ask students to describe what they saw, they are saying it orally.
Yes, and I'm taking notes on the board, and I'm over everything they do, like a brainstorming, yeah.
So one of the things that strikes me that until you actually get to an online discussion of what students saw is, to what degree does oral description and interpretation differ from textual? Mm-hmm. And that I don't know that you could find that out without going to a hybrid or somewhat online format. Mm-hmm. Is what is the nature of discourse when it changes from oral to textual? Mm-hmm. What is the nature of the interactions between the participants where there aren't social verbal cues that they pick up from each other in terms of when it's appropriate to speak or respond or listen? Mm-hmm. You know, now here everything is having to be done online in a textual format, mm-hmm. linear from top to bottom in terms of the description, then the interpretation. You come back in there. I don't know if there is a difference, but it strikes mm-hmm. me that you will have the opportunity that you wouldn't have had otherwise in a totally face-to-face class. Is the observation more detailed? Is the interpretation richer? Is it more conjecture? Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know that you'll be able to mm-hmm. find that out until after you've done the exercise, but, and it's not to try to persuade you one way or the other.
But it's enticing.
But I think that that's what you're setting yourself up for, mm-hmm. is after you've done this, you alone will be in a position to evaluate what was the pedagogical benefit, what was the student learning, how was it different mm-hmm. when it was conducted completely face-to-face versus completely online. Mm-hmm. Is it better, is it worse? If so, how? Those I think will be some of the things that you could look at.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Hi.
Will you be looking in their responses for the detail of observation, the amount of detail in their observations of this? You have a rubric or something by which you can...
Yeah, no, so far the purpose of this exercise is not to see how descriptive they can be, how detail oriented, but how just for them to get a reaction and to see how much they know, I mean, pretty much it's just how they answer the prompt. I think I could do other exercises where, okay, now describe, let's practice the description part, then I would be looking at that. Here, the only thing I'm separating descriptors from interpretation.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing, again, this sort of ties in with what John Fritz was saying, is the pedagogical benefit is the quiet people can't just sit back and let the other people jump in this way. Everyone has to participate. And
Yeah.
see.
Although in my class, I totally get that.
Yeah.
In my class, I don't stop until everybody
Okay.
said something.
Excellent.
But I totally see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Are there a series of, I mean, so you've not done this video clip before for any of your classes?
No, I have for the Education
video
666,
clip?
which is fully online.
Okay.
But it's for graduate students. To me, the new experience is going to be that this is for undergraduate students and it's going to be in the hybrid format, because with the undergrads, I do this face-to-face.
So they will see more of these kinds of clips going forward, or is this just the opening exercise or icebreaker?
This is one exercise, not completely at the beginning, but it's early on, because it really sets up the whole class with, you know, the interpretations and the meaning making and all that.
I think it's great. I think it's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, if you have more ideas about the experiential, because I cannot be doing, you know, videos all the time either, so that's the challenge for me.
Good.
I do think that you'll see an interesting response to having somebody do this, writing about what they saw, versus being in a room, seeing the people do it and talking about it. I mean, I think you've given yourself a good example of when hybrid will really be a richer experience.
I guess what I would be interested in talking to you is to see if we can then start testing these things, like maybe having some research project when I teach the class face to face, when it's hybrid, when it's online, so we can actually gather more information.
If I could, and it's a completely different class, but I'm going to keep harping on what Tim Hardy presented yesterday.
Oh, yes.
He was looking at the difference in student scores on a common final exam in a hybrid format versus a face-to-face. And the evidence was pretty compelling that the students were doing better. Now, the question was, to what extent was Tim the variable as the instructor that led to that change or not? But I think that's the kind of dialogue and discussion, particularly across disciplines, as we try to assess these things, that I would be very interested to see how you go about assessing that.
Yes, exactly.
Good.
Thank you. Yay.